Romania and its small neighbor Moldova want to unite. This project, which has been floating around for many decades, is currently more present than ever before. The two countries were already united in the period between the First and Second World Wars under the name of Greater Romania. However, the Soviet Union seized Moldova during the Second World War and the two states were separated from then on. And so today, in the wake of renewed Russian invasions, the topic of unification is more present than it has been for a long time. But why do so many Moldovans long to join Romania? What exactly does Russia have to do with it, and how likely is a unification of the two countries in the next few years? We take a look at all these questions in today's video. The origins of both states go back to the Principality of Moldova. This comprised areas of present-day Romania, Moldova, and also some areas of present-day Ukraine. In the year 1859, this principality merged with the Romanian Principality of Wallachia. After the First World War, the territories of Bessarabia in the east and Transylvania in the west were also added. This created the Kingdom of Romania, which was colloquially referred to as Greater Romania, as all Romanian-speaking ethnic groups were now united in one large state. It is important to note that Romanian is still the official language of Moldova today and is spoken by a large part of the population. However, Greater Romania only existed for a short time, as the part of the country that is now Moldova was annexed by the Soviet Union during the Second World War. This created the Moldovan Soviet Socialist Republic, which was part of the Soviet Union. However, nationalist movements were founded early on in the small Soviet Republic, advocating reunification with Romania. These played an important role in the country's independence in the year 1991. Prior to this, Russian had already been abolished as the second official language, and it was decided to return to the Romanian language in Latin script. Conservative and liberal parties also called for reunification with Romania along the lines of German reunification. However, these plans were strictly rejected, particularly by the Russian-speaking minorities in the east of the country. Mass protests broke out, particularly in the two regions of Transnistria and Gagauzia, which in the case of Transnistria even led to war. Russia sent troops to this part of the country, which are still stationed there today. Transnistria then declared itself independent, although this independence is only recognized by Russia. As a result of this unrest in the country, rapid reunification with Romania was now a distant prospect. At the time, support for reunification was significantly lower than it is today. Many feared further Russian troops in their own country should it turn even further towards Romania, and many hoped for a golden future as an independent country. But these hopes were quickly dashed. Economic decline began and Moldova became one of the poorest countries in Europe. The Transnistrian conflict also kept the country busy for a long time, and it now seemed increasingly hopeless to bring the breakaway province back into its own sphere of influence. The resentment among the population became all the greater when they saw how neighboring Romania developed after joining the EU. Supported by EU funds, the standard of living here rose dramatically and the economy also grew steadily. At the same time, the economic and social situation in Moldova has steadily deteriorated. As a result, many citizens now see Moldova's salvation in unification with Romania and thus de facto accession to the EU. The proportion of those in favor of unification rose from 20% at the beginning of the 2000 to over 40% by the year 2021. And after the Russian invasion, more than half of the population spoke out in favor of such a project for the first time. Many fear that Moldova could be the next victim of Russian expansion and therefore want to join the EU and NATO as soon as possible, both of which seem within reach if Romania were to join. And many in Romania would also like to see reunification. But there are also many obstacles. For one thing, it is by no means certain whether Moldova would automatically be part of the EU in the event of reunification, as this would set a precedent. Moldova only applied to join the EU last year and the country does not meet most of the criteria. It is also extremely questionable whether the EU states would accept a country in the Union that has no sovereignty over all parts of the country and in which Russian troops are stationed. Transnistria is still a powder keg and Russia would certainly not accept EU membership. In addition, unrest could also break out again in other parts of the country with a Russian influence. It is also uncertain how willing the Romanian government really is to accept Moldova, as this could provoke an open conflict with Russia. And so, despite the hopes of many Moldovans, it currently seems very unlikely that such a reunification will take place. Although the EU and NATO are already supporting the small country financially, it is still a long way from full membership. There is too much unrest in the country, and as long as Russia remains a power bloc in the region, unification with Romania is rather unlikely.